Nick Darr here with Big Z Media. Hope you enjoy the episodes of Business Over Brew, and pleased to have the Riverbend Growth Association as the sponsor of this program. Our missions are kind of the same. Really, we're attempting to educate people about business, foster business in the Riverbend community. The Big Z has been a member of the Growth Association forever, probably back to our inception as a company almost. We have always been members of the Growth Association, have gotten a lot of benefits from it. There's so many networking opportunities you can take advantage of. I've met so many great people just because I've been a member of the Growth Association and taken advantage of all the events that they have, plus just some of the resources they provide you, the relationships you build, just lots of great reasons to join the Growth Association. They do a lot of great things in the community as well. They highlight a different nonprofit every month. So really, they're just invested in the community here, and especially the small business community, which is what Business Over Brew is really all about, which is helping the small business community, because it's so important to any community to have a thriving business community. And the Growth Association has really helped with that. If you want more information about joining or events that might be coming up, they have events all the time that you should definitely take advantage of. I'm going to give you the website to go to. Just head to growthassociation.com. You can get a membership directory. You can see who's taking advantage of it. You can see about the events that are there, learn more about possibly becoming a member. Or if you already are a member, you can find out what's going on with the Growth Association at growthassociation.com. So just again, big thank you to the Riverbend Growth Association for sponsoring Business Over Brew. Welcome to Business Over Brew. My name is Nick Darr. Pleased to be joining you here from the Great Rivers Tap and Grill. Excellent restaurant inside the Best Western Premier. If you get a chance to check it out, I highly recommend you do so. This is a show where we talk to business leaders in the community, and very pleased to be joined today by Gary Hoggatt, First Mid-America Credit Union VP of Mortgage Services. Thanks for coming on.
Nice
Appreciate
to be here.
We're drinking tea. That's brewed. Business Over Brew. It could be anything. So, we were talking before we came on the camera, and I think we were coming up with some good stuff. Just kind of tell us how you got your start in the business. We're going back to it started right here, actually.
Yeah. So that's a funny story to start here at the Alton Holiday Inn. In the early '80s, when they were doing the construction, my dad was on the construction crew here, and he said, "Hey, I got somebody you can talk to, get a job." And this was the summer before my senior year, so I was looking to do, I'd done other stuff, but wanted to do a real job.
Right.
So I started at the Holiday Inn. I worked all through my senior year in that summer, and then when I went to college, when I would come home, I would work summers here. So they were real good to work with. When I got back, I was working full-time at the front desk, and they needed somebody to work midnight. Somebody was going to have a baby, and I said, "Oh, I can do that job." And really, I could do the job, and that was fine. The job was fine, but I didn't really care for midnight.
Right, as most people don't, I would say.
Yeah, it's like, who do you see? You only see, the security guard, and we weren't good friends or anything. So I was like, oh. So when she had her baby and came back, she got the day shift, and I stayed on midnights, and I thought, this isn't going to work for me. So I thought, what can I do? And this is when I started my career in banking. So I got hired at Germania. It was a savings loan in town, out by the mall.
Not the brew house.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But they're in the original building, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And started as a part-time teller, and did that for a while. Moved up to senior teller, and then the personal banking stuff, and then the branch manager. And I spent 16 years in retail doing branch management and that kind of stuff.
Right. You talked about, and this is something that we've had Riverbend CEO students and various people come into the radio station, and we'll talk to them a little bit about just their careers. And I always say that one of the things that really just, it was kind of dumb luck. It wasn't necessarily planned. It was something you mentioned before we came on the air. I just volunteered for everything that came up. Any opportunity, like I said, I wanted to learn that. I'll do that. I'll take the weekend shift. Whatever, it was just continuously raising my hand to where eventually 5-10 years down the road, I kind of knew how to do everything.
Right.
So when it came time to look for a new person to run the station, it was like, well, he might not be great, but at least he knows how to do everything. So that's how I got the role, was just continuing to raise my hand.
So that was kind of my philosophy. I always tried to dress for the next position. So, I mean, when you're a part-time teller, you don't have a lot of money, but I would wear a jacket.
Right.
And it would be really funny because somebody would be yelling at some teller, and I'd step over there and say something,
right, yeah.
and it's the same thing they just said, and they're like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Just have a jacket on."
I'd like to speak to the manager.
manager,
Well,
okay.
they're not here, but Gary's got a jacket on, so we'll go get him.
And then I would try to learn the next job. So even when I was here at the Holiday Inn, they had a system where you could do training online. So when we weren't busy, I would be training online, and then I could do reservations. I could do whatever, because they learned it at Germania. I really wanted to do personal banking. There wasn't a position open, and I said, I'm going to come in on my Saturdays off, and I'll work with the senior banker and just learn your job. Is that okay? And they're like, I don't care.
Right, yeah.
And so then,
no one's
like
ever
you
asked
said,
that
when the
before.
position came open, I was like, hey, I already know this job. I can do it.
Sure. So take us from Germania to, where you are now.
So I did some small business lending for a few years, and that didn't really work for me because I'm really into helping people, and it was more churn. Get to the next loan, get to the next loan.
Sure,
I'm like,
right.
hey, that just doesn't. So I went into mortgage lending, which is what I've been doing now for 17 years. And it really fulfills a need that I have of helping people. So I tell people when I say, well, my job is making dreams come true. And I really mean that, because there's nothing that feels better than when you help someone buy their first home. And it's really something that I've always, when I took training, took the sales training course that was all needs-based. And they taught us that if you meet people's needs, you'll always sell, and you'll sell what you need to. And so, when I meet someone, I'm going to ask them questions, figure out what they really need, and then I'm going to help them to get there, to meet that need. And so that's how I got into the lending side of things. When I went to the credit union, the reason it was such a good fit for me is the credit union has a philosophy of people helping people.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not just a slogan they have, it's really the way they do business. Our whole focus is, how can we improve the lives of our members, of their family, of the community? So we have this mandate to the community. And so then that really sat well with me because of my need to, if you want to call it, serve people. So there was this book that was put out by Gallup. It was called Now Discovering Your Strengths. And I thought, oh, this would be great. I'm young and I'm trying to learn all these things. And I took it, and then I got the results, and it was like, the results was like, you should be in a position of service. And I told my wife, my strengths are lame. And she's like, no, they're not. It is what it is.
Right, yeah.
And I guess as I've grown over time, I have realized that it isn't lame. If that's what you have your passion for, then that's what you need to be doing. And it just works best for me when I'm helping other people.
You mentioned that focus on, helping the members. That's the number one focus. I just saw a video. It was Jeff Bezos talking about Amazon. And somebody was going to start kind of doing what they did. And he was worried that, a lot of consternation amongst the company that they were just going to put Amazon out of business. And he called a meeting, which was only like 100 people at the company at that time. And he said, it's okay to be afraid of what's happening, but be afraid of our customers and how we can focus on them to serve them better. Mm-hmm. And now obviously that led to a great deal of success for Amazon. So that's important. So many things can happen in business and a lot of outside forces, but when you just have a focus and a real, clear due north for your company, that really is beneficial.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about networking has been very important for you. I know you've been a big part of the Growth Association for a number of years. That's probably how you and I first met, I would imagine, at some Growth Association event. Just talk about the importance of networking and how you've kind of leveraged that to be successful in your career.
So people do business with people that they know and like and trust. So then the first thing you got to do is know people, right? And so that's what the networking is about, is getting out there and meeting people. I joined the ambassador committee because at the time it was so that I thought, hey, this is a great avenue.
Right.
It'll kind of force me to get to things, and then I'll meet more people. So then the next step is that after they know you, then they have to like you. So you got to be likable I always try to make it a point to be kind to people. I think that I should be a hard worker, I should be honest, and I should be kind. And so if I'm being kind, then over time, then it builds that trust that they think they can trust me. So networking to me is all about referring people. And my philosophy on that is I'm going to talk to you and you're going to tell me something you need. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I know this guy over here and he can help you. I've always looked at myself as like a liaison between people. And I'm just putting people together. Zig Ziglar says that if you help enough other people get what they need, you can get everything you want in life. So I kind of feel like it's not about me. I'm just going to help you guys. And then I bet when you do need a loan, you're going to say, hey, that Gary Hoggatt, I know him. He's a good guy. He'll help you. I trust him. And so I try to make this world's philosophy is really about, it's all about me, right?
Sure.
And it's not
what we're living in, for sure.
About me. So if I make everything about other people and taking care of them and helping them, help them find the right person they need. I mean, that's why, to me, networking is so important. It really isn't, I got to tick off that I saw 3 people and I got their cards.
Right.
I'm just looking for, that's really unique what they do. I think I know someone that could help.
It's one of the most rewarding things, I think, has been throughout my career is connecting somebody that has a need with somebody that can fulfill that need and helping them both. That's really just a very rewarding thing. And networking is a great way to be able, the more people you know, the more you're able to do that, I guess.
I mean, I think that's really the crux of it all for me. And some of the validation for when I won Ambassador of the Year in 2008, and that kind of was a solidification. Hey, the stuff you're doing, it's working. This is the right thing to do. Keep doing that. When I got hired at the credit union, the CEO then, he said, I really want us to become the premier lender in this market. And I teach my staff, just help people. When they come in, don't be an order taker. Our job's not just to take orders, it's listening. Listen to what they had to say, figure out what they need, and help them to get there. And this last year when we won, the best of the best mortgage lenders, to me, that was like, hey, I think we got to the right place. This is where we're supposed to be.
Sure.
And when I'm not working, my faith is very important to me. So serving my family, being a good husband, being a good father, serving at church, those things are all important to me, but they're still back to
service.
Kind of serving.
Right, yeah. How do you stay organized? How do you prioritize and delegate tasks throughout the day?
So I am really good at using an Outlook calendar in that I micromanage myself. I have things like every 30 minutes all day long. It keeps me on track. I'm a firm believer that you had to mark out white space. So that's your time to be thinking, to plan for the next day. A lot of people, if you don't, you get stuck that all these fires that come up during the day, and at the end of the day, you haven't done anything. These are things that keep me on track, and here's my white space to still think. I try to teach my staff, I tell them that, hey, you got to black out time that's just this time to think. Now, I'm not a big delegator. I believe that cross-training in jobs, in that we all know our job, and if I'm doing my job and they're doing their job, there's really not anything I can give you to do because this is the job I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I thought about that. How do I delegate? I don't really delegate, but I train people to do my job so that if I'm not there, they can. But if I'm there, I don't ask them, hey, will you do this? Because that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. I don't really love this word, but how do you handle, maybe not failure, but it doesn't always go your way. So how do you handle that when it doesn't?
Okay, so this is really funny because this morning I send a quote to my son every day, and the quote that I sent today, let's see, I'm gonna.
You're as prepared as any guest I think we've ever had. So
which is really weird though that today was the day that I sent him this quote, but. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Being prepared was I could have had it up at the time. Losers quit when they fail. Winners fail until they succeed. So I don't look at failure. It's just part of being successful.
Right.
You have to fail at something and you do it again and you fail and you do it again and you're always looking for, well, how can I do it better? So when we make a mistake, I hate it, but I always think it's an opportunity to to learn.
Right.
And so I look at the situation, and one of my big pet peeves is I don't care who did it. We don't need to figure out who can we blame this on. Let's figure out how it happened and how we don't want it to happen again. So I guess my failure, how do I deal with failures? I look for ways to make sure it doesn't happen a second time, and how can we grow from it, learn from it,
I was in a meeting recently, and we were talking about societally, and even myself personally, I feel like maybe I'm a little more wired to dwell on the negative and try to fix those things. And I'm poor at complimenting and recognizing, hey, 90% of what we're doing is great and it's really working. I fixate on the 10%. How do you, if that's an issue for you, how do you manage that?
So it is hard, right?
I'm just asking for personal advice, really.
So Zig Ziglar is the one that says you should look for the gold.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of my he's not, I think he's
passed away, I
now,
believe, yeah.
But you look for the gold, not the dirt. And what we tend to do is, when you're digging for the gold, you're pulling all this dirt away. And so when you're developing a staff member, you look for the thing that they are strongest in, and you build on that instead of finding their weakness and constantly say, you don't do this right, you don't do this right, you need to get better here. And I found when I was training personal bankers that I would have one that couldn't do something, and I would say, why am I going to fix all my time wasted on fixing this one problem when here they are fantastic?
Right.
Let's just fix all of our time on making them so good at this that nobody cares.
Right.
That they can't do that.
Yeah.
It is hard because you want to just look at the negative.
It is hard. I think the reason it's hard for me is I definitely want any praise. I want it to be authentic. I want them to feel like it's real, and a lot of times it is. But I mean, if you're being honest, I think if your supervisor or boss or whatever title you want to say comes in and says, "Hey, you're doing a great job here," but they're only going to remember what you said after "but," So,
right.
So it's tough to. It's not tough. It's just you got to be intentional about praising, complimenting when things are going well and you do see good things. And, I can certainly do a better job at that. So but it's something that's important, I think, because you don't recognize how much impact what you say has on other people when you give a compliment or when you give criticism, both. So it's important how you word those things and how you approach it, I think. So.
Absolutely.
Gary, in the mortgage business, obviously it's been a little bit of something we've seen something in the last couple of years that you hadn't seen for a while, and that's rates going up. Talk about the impact of that and how First Mid-America has dealt with that and what it's meant for your clients.
So rates to me are just relative. They are what they are today. I was doing a presentation, we call it a department showcase at work, and I was talking to staff, and specifically right after lunch today, and one of them said, what's the highest rate you've ever seen? And in the 80s, my parents bought a home, and it was 18%.
Right.
And, so when I look at it, I'm like, okay, our rates are 6 right now. And when I bought my first home, it was 8%. So rate's just the rate for the day. A home is an appreciating asset. So it's never a bad choice to buy a home.
Right.
It's going to be worth more down the road. So it's just relative to what your rate is today. And if rates get better, you just refinance it.
Sure.
And so that's what I would tell you. You don't stop.
So, right.
Yeah. Well, why do you want to rent?
Right.
When you're renting, you're paying someone else's mortgage, and you're just throwing your equity away every month. Where at least if you're buying a home, you're building equity for yourself.
Right.
And it's something that's stressful for people right now. They're fearful about it. It isn't anything to be afraid of. It's just what it is today. You find a home that you can afford, make the payments, and then when things get better rate-wise, you change. We've lived in an environment where they were so low
Right.
that it's just unusual. Everybody in this generation that's been around for the last 10 years, they don't know any difference.
Right. 6% blows their mind because they're used to, lower than that. You mentioned daily white space. Are there some other daily habits that you are religious about practicing every day to be successful?
So I'm an early person. I like to be the opening person. I have a couple of blogs or podcasts that I listen to while I'm getting ready at work. There's some reports and things I pull in the morning. I can listen to those. I like to listen to some industry things. I look to the Chrisman commentary, which is all about mortgage And there's a company called Crucial Learning. I listened to a lot of stuff by then. It's just something that I can do during that time. No one else is there yet.
Right.
Usually about an hour before we open. That's real important to me to have that time. So I guess that's kind of it should be my planning time, but to me, it's just time to like feed myself with some information, figure out the top stories of the day.
Have you always been an early morning person?
Always.
Always.
I'm up at 5 every day.
Right. Last question. Beautiful Saturday afternoon. You got some time to yourself. What are you doing?
Probably going to be mowing the lawn. I like to read, but if it's summer, I'm just going to be outside doing something in the yard. If my family's there, we're going to be doing something together. Used to be a heavy into exercise and workout, not so much anymore, but I still love it.
Right. Anything we missed or anything that we should touch on before we wrap up here? Or did I do such a good job interviewing?
Great job.
Everything? That's fantastic. Gary, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Okay, well, they can certainly get a hold of me at the credit union, First Mid-America Credit Union. My number, I'll give you my phone number, 618-258-4536. Happy to help any way I can.
Gary, thanks so much for coming on Business Over Brew. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.